Good morning or good afternoon, wherever this finds you, and welcome to ETOA's VIVA Sourcing Sustainable Product. This is the introductory session before the workshop itself starts in about 30 minutes. My name's Tim Fairhurst, and I'm joined today by two speakers, Virginia and Xavier, who will be speaking after me to talk about sustainability principles in action. And the reason why we wanted to bring this conversation to you at the beginning of the workshop today is to knowing that we've got some operators, we've got destinations, we've got DMCs, we've got all kinds of people who are interested in what's going on in this field, but are looking for practical tools to make progress, having decided they want to do more sustainability in action. How do they go about it, whether they're an operator or a destination? And from a broader context perspective, it's very clear to us as we engage with our partners in Brussels and elsewhere in Europe that industry needs to move faster than the consumer. The demand-led explanation of the visitor economy is insufficient to meet the long-term sectoral need. Decarbonization and social acceptance are both big issues for tourism. We need to decarbonize, and the image of tourism from an over-tourism perspective and community stress is back in the news, and it feels like there's less tolerance for busy cities than there was before the pandemic. So we know that new regulation that affects the business environment in respect of sustainability is coming, particularly in respect of environmental change. But meanwhile, we know that taking our own initiative as a sector is necessary. And in order to do that, we need support from our boards and from other leadership within the industry. Part of our challenge is that we've got to navigate a very complex environment. In Europe alone, there are over 200 certification and accreditation systems that relate to sustainability in tourism. It's very hard to know where to start. Reporting requirements are coming. At the moment, it's for larger businesses. It's likely that will continue, and the risks with making claims about environmental performance are likely to get more serious if they cannot be justified under the proposed Green Claims Directive that the European Union has proposed. And as ETOA, we're very active working with partners to make sure that any sort of regulatory framework is something that's going to be manageable, particularly for a micro and SME dominated industry. So that's the general background from me. I want to emphasize that we're talking about all aspects of sustainability today. I talk to lots of people who say, okay, the climate's important, but what about the social and economic benefit throughout the year? And it's exactly that more nuanced approach to measuring sustainability that we're going to hear about from our experts today. We need the tools to make better decisions. Those tools need to work. They need to be as sophisticated as necessary, but they need to be as simple as possible. So to learn what is going on out there to help people make better decisions and to present better management information, I'm now going to turn it over to our two speakers, and Virginia is going to go first. So Virginia, welcome. The floor is now yours.
Tim, I'm afraid Virginia has been knocked offline, so she won't be first up. If we could probably go to Xavier first, that would probably be...
Thank you, Aaron. And Aaron in the background is my colleague in charge of ETOA's events, and you'll be hearing a little more from him just before the workshop proper starts. So Aaron, thanks for the stage management. Xavier, over to you. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak today, because this is a topic that is very central to my interest and some of the research that we have been doing at the University of Surrey in recent months. Let me share my screen and we can... Oh, I've never used this platform, but hopefully you can see my screen now. And so what I want to talk about is the fact that clearly we need to look at data on sustainability, on the environmental or social costs, together with data around the benefits that tourism can bring to a certain destination. And in the past, we have mostly used data on the economic benefits that tourism will bring to a destination, whether you are a DMC, whether you're an inbound tour operator. And we've looked at tourism as a way of bringing income to a place, but also we need to look beyond that. And that is in part because many of the plans still are finding it difficult to include this. These are plans from national governments, but equally we find the same when we look at plans from individual companies. There's a lot of effort being done around how do we identify the correct supplier that when we get to a certain destination will have the lowest possible impact, but actually very little has been done around which are the market segments that we're going to consider attracting to a certain place. The graph I'm showing you here comes from research that we have done for the city of Barcelona in Spain. And while this is Barcelona itself, I think we can apply it to any other location. On the vertical column, you have the total expenditure for the entire holiday, excluding the flights, for a visitor coming to Barcelona. And so you can see that the biggest market share is from Spain itself. That's the size of the bubble. Also is the market share that's got the lowest expenditure per person, but typically also because it has the shortest duration. But also on the horizontal, you can see it has the lowest carbon footprint. The carbon footprint does include the carbon footprint of the transport, and this is what makes the biggest difference normally to differentiate the two. So you can see that most DMCs, most DMOs, most buyers at the moment are considering the potential markets that will attract based on the expenditure, the likely expenditure that that market is going to have in a certain destination. And so on that basis, you could see that some markets like Asia or Middle East or USA would be more attractive. But if we consider the cost-benefit analysis, you can then see that there are different decisions we may want to take, taking into account both variables. Now, I'm not saying that these are the only two variables you're going to use, and we're going to look at that further along. But one of the things I would want you to think about when you consider markets, and if you're genuinely interested in sustainability, is start having a new variable, which is the carbon footprint per traveler per day, or the carbon footprint per traveler for their entire trip. If you're interested in this, I can share the Excel spreadsheet that we use. It's free of charge. You can just input some of the data for your source market, and it will give you an estimated carbon footprint, and it will give you an equivalent graph to this one for your own organization. If this is what you wanted to look at, you would have three key actions that you want to follow, which is how do I reduce the distance traveled by my markets? How do I increase the length of stay so we can increase the expenditure without necessarily increasing their carbon footprint? Or how do I optimize the method of transport? For example, if they're going to come to Europe and they will be traveling within Europe, doing multiple visits within Europe, as opposed to trying to use internal flights. But some of you will say, well, Xavier, expenditure is not the only variable I'm using to segment markets. And that makes a lot of sense, right? So we did some work with another destination, and we can apply this to companies as well, but we've done it at the moment at destination level, where for that destination, they said, look, there are at least 5-6 different variables that we use for segmenting at the moment. Leadership, is this a market for which we have a high market share? We do have a secure revenue from that market. Dynamism, has that market recovered to pre-COVID-19 levels, or is the market still lagging behind? Seasonality, is this a market that allows us to diversify our income across the year and therefore produces kind of a guaranteed levels of business for me as a company or for the destination throughout the year? Length of stay, is this a market that generally has a long length of stay in my destination and therefore is likely to not just go to the hotspots, but actually to visit other places within my destination? There seems to be a very strong correlation between length of stay and whether you just visit the hotspots or whether you diversify your expenditure and benefit other businesses. Obviously, expenditure, which is the market that spends more money in my destination, but also connectivity. Is this market very well connected? Do we have good transport links between the source market and my destination? And then you can see that I'm also introducing carbon footprint variables. So in this case, I'm introducing 3 carbon footprint variables: carbon footprint per person per night for the whole trip, or basically the ratio between expenditure and carbon. And what we've done in this case for the market for Andalusia, the region in the south of Spain, which is the home to Seville, Malaga, Cordoba, Granada, other destinations if you're not familiar with that part of the world. But what we've done here is we've used a traffic light system for looking at 15 international markets together with the own Spanish domestic market, as well as the regional market from within Andalusia. And you can see that every single one of your target markets is better at some things and not so good at some others. So it's not black and white that one market is going to be your favorite market and is going to tick, bright green on every single thing. So obviously, sometimes from a distance point of view, or from a location, from a length of stay, you'll find that some markets, like for example Germany, Belgium, are good on length of stay as well as on CO2. But then, obviously, the local markets, the Spanish market itself is poor on length of stay, it's poor on expenditure, but it's good on connectivity and CO2. Or they've recovered also faster. So you can see how different markets are good for different reasons. The US market, for example, being good at seasonality, being good at expenditure, but then evidently being further away, being poorer at CO2, in terms of decisions. What I'm trying to show you here is that before you choose a particular market, consider the different possible benefits as well as the costs you will have, and be aware when you choose a certain market that there will always be trade-offs, and try to understand whether you're comfortable with the trade-offs you will be making. The single largest source of carbon footprint for any given market is the transport from that home market to your destination. The behavior once you're at the destination from a carbon footprint point of view is not that different. The difference comes from that travel, journey. So in the case of Andalusia, we found that there were some differences if we didn't include carbon footprint or if we did include carbon footprint, but not always as obvious as we had hoped. So for example, Netherlands, Denmark, Belgium were still ranked very, very highly with and without carbon footprint, whereas some of the markets tended to rate lower, when we include the carbon footprint variable. This is all from me. I want to stop sharing now, and hopefully we'll go back to Virginia for her presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Xavier. Aaron, has Virginia been able to rejoin us?
Unfortunately not. We're still trying to catch her. So if you would
catch
up with this conversation, I'll see what I can do. Maybe her colleague Erica can also join. I've invited her in to join us if she wants to.
All right. Well, sorry for the technical hitch. And just to reassure you that we will certainly share the presentations to everyone registered. So if there's any technical issues on that, you'll get those. But Xavier, we last had a chat a couple of weeks ago when you kindly agreed to join us today. And I suppose one of the things that struck me in our conversation was that if I'm a destination, then one of the strongest, in a political sense, one of the strongest drivers for opinion is the local community. And when you are looking at the 6 variables you talked about, leadership, dynamism, seasonality, and so on, where does community voice sit in that? How's that measured, and does that feed into the model when people are making decisions?
That's a very good point. There are at least 2 variables that we have not included here, which are key for social sustainability. One is the working conditions and the pay of the employees in the sector. And the second variable that we have not included is the residents' perceptions of tourism. And the reason why we didn't include both of either of those is because we didn't find they significantly vary according to the nationality of the markets you're bringing to your destination. We can model the difference that either of those variables makes to the sustainability of a particular market. For example, we could assume that markets that have a higher expenditure may go to hotels or properties that have higher or better working conditions for the staff, but it's not clear cut. And so we would be making a lot of assumptions to be able to kind of say something along those lines. That's why at the moment we've modeled carbon footprint, which is just one of the many environmental variables, alongside traditional variables that DMOs and DMCs use for market segmentation based on benefits.
That's clear. And just to share some insight, because I'm traveling in Italy this week and had an opportunity to talk to the National Tourism Organization about how they're seeing tourism recover and what are the good signs and what are perhaps the signs that are causing concern. So if you're Italy and you're looking at the business from the United States, which is a very important market for Italy, it's very likely that the volume of business from the United States to Italy is probably up by double figures this year. So from a commercial perspective, that's a great success. However, there's a question mark about whether the type of tourism is evolving in a way that suits destinations as fast as they'd like. So product dispersal and development is always a priority. We know that there are, whether they're attractions or cities, which they're certainly sellers markets at the moment, but it's very hard to manage the demand as it is. So knowing that dispersal of spend and the sort of pattern of behavior in destinations is becoming something that we're all looking at, whether it's the private sector thinking, okay, if this is a hard area to produce because demand is going up and up and up, the Chinese market's going to return to Europe in a big way next year. So the concern is that there will be some serious operational challenges if everyone's trying to go to the classic Venice, Florence, Rome, for example. So are there any tools to measure dispersal geographically? So I can see seasonality in there, but some of that might be relatively micro, I suppose. So instead of the most famous museum going to less famous museums, but what's going on in that space?
So length of stay is a very good indicator of dispersal. And I know the two variables are different, but the shorter length of stay normally is associated with visiting, the key sites. So if you stay for 2 nights in Paris, you will go to the Eiffel Tower. If you stay for 7 nights, you will not go 7 times. You'll still only go once. So a very crude measure of dispersal is length of stay. And we find this, and in that sense, some of the work that DMOs should be doing is focusing on attracting repeat visitors, not first-time visitors. It's unlikely that repeat visitors will visit the honeypots a second or a third time, in the same way that first-time visitors will definitely go there. If this was your first time in your life to Paris, you would definitely go to the Eiffel Tower, right? And I keep using this as an example because more or less we'll all be familiar with it. So identify repeat markets as your main source of, for your target markets. And you will be contributing to increased length of stay, diversification of products. Also, the repeat market understands something about the culture and the country they're going to visit. There's already a certain affinity towards that place. So customer satisfaction for first-time visitors is either really good or really bad. You want to minimize that risk. Repeat visitors have already got a certain buy-in to that destination, and by and large, the customer satisfaction of repeat visitors will be higher, or will be less mercurial, will be less hot or cold.
That's a very interesting observation, because it reminds me of the bell curve about adopting new products and new things. So is it the case that from a marketing perspective, the industry, the people who are selling Europe all around the world as well as inside Europe, are going to be thinking, well, let's see if we can attract the early adopters who, as it were, want to do different things. And one of the interesting aspects of this from our perspective, because many of our operators do group travel, particularly group cultural travel to destinations throughout Europe. And what we've noticed since the pandemic is some of those group sizes are getting smaller. That's through choice. That's definitely consumer driven, but that opens up the possibility of different activities because they're accessible with different size groups and so forth. So I think your observation that if someone is just in one country for longer, so I know generally speaking from a destination perspective, you're trying to get it up from 2-point-something nights to above 3, but looked at more nationally, it's often the case that people from outside Europe will visit more than one country on a trip, certainly their first time trip. And classically, particularly from long haul markets, there'll be a survey tour of 3 or more countries. But I think your point about repeat business matches very well with the ability of the travel trade to influence its consumers. So there's quite a lot of loyalty. There's a lot of client loyalty, in fact, among some operators' clients. And if they say, well, we have this great new tour of Italy, here are some names that are going to be unfamiliar to you, and their ability to sell that and encourage repeat clients to go to it is much better because of the positive past experience. So it feels like a commercial inference from what you're saying is that if we focus on the repeat business, which is a big part of the business coming from the United States, down a bit and go deeper into the destination than they might have done first time. Is that a fair inference?
I would agree with that, but also you may not be able to just do a black or white kind of situation. You may have to have a switch process where you basically say, here's a way of extending your trip by 1 day. Here's a way of mixing some things that are the obvious must-see locations with unusual things that will give you the bragging right, the unusual thing that you'll be able to go back and say, well, everybody's seen Venice like that. I just happened to see something that was much more real. But that doesn't detract from the fact that you also saw Venice, but obviously
That's
in a
true.
different way, or there was an extension to that. But I see we've got
we do. Erica has joined us, so hold that thought.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it if we've time. But Erica, thank you very much for persevering with the technology. So she's able to connect, a colleague of Virginia, and can speak to the same topic. So without any further ado, Erica, over to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. I will go very fast because Virginia is having some technical issues, and Maite Garcia, she's the secretary of HOSBEC. She couldn't make it either. So I'm here on behalf of HOSBEC, and I'm representing Bioscore, that is the company that has a work in progress and a partnership with HOSBEC. So first of all, I will introduce to you HOSBEC, which is the Hotel and Tourism Business Association of the region of Valencia. They brings together companies involved in hospitality, accommodation, restaurants, leisure, and they are all located in the region of Valencia. They have different services about marketing and communication, general services, health and safety services, as quality project, big data and analytics, and also training for the associate, for the partners of HOSBEC. And they are also services in sustainability management, in which we are focused today, and that we are in partnership with them about. On the other hand, Bioscore is a platform specialized in sustainable tourism, dedicated to certification and consulting services. And we have a very own simple and dedicated and secure management software. We promote sustainable practices, and we have the aim to offer travelers the option to choose environmentally responsible establishment. We have 700 certified properties worldwide, and we have more than 36,000 accommodations with their very own rating system, so with a score about sustainability. We offers a lot of services about certification, carbon footprint calculation, water footprint calculation, monitoring energy consumption, and prepare sustainability reports, and many other services. And together, HOSBEC and Bioscore, we collaborate to assist hotels and destinations in prioritizing sustainability management and making more informed decisions. We focus on intelligent data management with HOSBEC to evaluate sustainability levels in destination, so about their destination involved with the HOSBEC and the region of Valencia. And we want to generate big data through sustainability certification process for all the accommodation. So this is like the start. I'm just trying to sum up because I know that we have not so many minutes. About HOSBEC, I just want to remind that HOSBEC has today 332 associates currently, and around 100 of them work with our platform of Bioscore. We have today 67 accommodations certified with Bioscore. We know about the big data we are able to collect that the average grade of the accommodations is a B seal for the whole region in our system. And this means that they meet the 63.7% of the certification criteria by Bioscore. we have like 4 levels. So there's like a minimum properties needs to achieve to be able to obtain our certification. So we use this big data gathered from the vast amount of information stored on our platform to provide HostBet with the KPI management system so that they can monitor sustainable performance levels of their associates. HostBet set the KPIs, which they think they add more value to sustainable performance from the ESG approach. So we monitor for them 52 KPIs from 6 different areas, which are emissions, energy, water, weight, F&B management, also corporate and social responsibility. As an example, among these KPIs, we can find dashboards about number of accommodations, calculating footprint for the whole region of Valencia area, number of accommodation reporting in sustainability, number of accommodations monitoring food waste, number of accommodations controlling energy consumption, etc., etc. After establishing
just to quickly ask Erica, because we're short of time, but it's such an impressive tool. And just to remind everyone, we will share your presentation. So thank you for going so fast.
Okay.
But could you tell us, is this largely independent hotels? Is it hotels who are part of big chains? Do you get all kinds of properties involved?
We get all kinds of properties involved because we have large chains, for example, NH or Vinci groups are using also our platform. And we also have small independent properties, campings, campgrounds, B&B. It's really like the same platform for the whole type of property, because it's the KPIs that we can monitor. They are pretty much the same in the 3 areas of sustainability, but we can focus and choose with every partner the KPIs they want to monitor. In this case, with Maite, what we did was to choose with Maite the KPIs that they wanted to monitor for the association.
Thank you. And I mean, it's reminding me also of the program that Sustainable have, so Switzerland Tourism, where there's an opportunity for people to commit, and they're committing to get certified, but you need to start before you can get certified, and you're providing a way of taking people through that process in a very supported way. So thank you for doing that at lightning speed. I know it'd be great to have an opportunity in future to unpack both the work that Xavier is doing, also Erica and Virginia and your colleagues at Bioscore for Valencia and elsewhere. So thank you very much for finding the time to join us today. Thank you to the audience for listening, and I hope you have a very productive afternoon as the appointment starts. So presentations will be shared later, but I'm now going to turn things back to my colleague Aaron, who's just going to have a few preparatory words before the workshop itself starts. So Xavier and Erica, thank you so much. See you both again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for Tim and the panel, particularly Erica, who managed to join us just at the last minute in order to give a preview to HostBet. So we're just about to start the B2B appointments. So this event, maybe it's not a focus on the contracting necessarily compared to many of ETOA's B2B marketplaces, but more of a chance to explore conversations about your sustainable product. So we'll be kicking off. On your timeline, please click to join each of those meetings. We've got a bit of an asymmetry, which is an interesting aspect of this event, that there are lots of buyers available. So if you're a supplier attending, do make sure to go to the meeting hub and connect with as many of the buyers that you haven't been matched with that you might have interest in doing business with. So this platform will be open until the end of this month, so until the end of next week, where you can also arrange any ad hoc calls beyond the meetings that you have. So please respect the agenda that we've assigned. These were based on the preferences that everybody submitted. So it's important, even if you're not going to make the full duration, just to turn up and have an exchange of what you're looking for, what's on offer, and vice versa, because it's not always sellers selling. Buyers also have interesting outlay of their requirements that you perhaps could respond to, perhaps in a way that you hadn't imagined up until that point. So please use the live support chat if you have any technical difficulties, but it should be relatively straightforward. I'll just give you a few minutes just to prepare yourselves for your first meetings. But again, thank you to the panel and thank you to everybody who has joined us. ETOA has, and along with our colleagues at ECTAA, are doing this pilot project to really gauge interest, and we really hope that's a foundation for a bigger event next year. So thank you again, and good luck with all your meetings. Thank you.